This
2020.
conference will now be recorded.
I'm sorry, Chuck. I was super excited to start and forgot to let you know. The Committee of the Whole meeting of June 9th, 2020 will now please come to order at 7:03 p.m. Present are council members Brassard, Williamson, Schuman, Glassburn, and Kelly, the mayor, law director, clerk of council, and our guests this evening. Tonight we are here to discuss two topics. The first topic is the recommendations from the Charter Review Commission, and the second topic will be when and how council starts to return to our normal council meetings in council chambers. So starting with our first topic, council should have received the signed report from the Charter Review Commission last week. Council usually meets regarding this report in Committee of the Whole to provide direction to the Director of Law before moving forward, moving the topics forward to Council. As I've stated before in the past, out of respect for the Commission, I do believe that each of the recommendations should be drafted as legislation, discussed in intergovernmental, and voted on by City Council. And just getting a little ahead of myself, I also strongly believe that the recommendation should receive at least 2 readings, and as I mentioned, should be discussed in the committee process in intergovernmental. So Director Groh, if we could start with you, do you need any additional information from City Council at this point in order to draft that legislation and have that for us on first reading for Tuesday?
Thank you, Madam President. I will certainly endeavor to do so. I don't need anything further from you. I have enough from the work of the commission as to how to proceed. And if it's the desire of the body, then I will I'll work to get as much as I can, hopefully all of it ready for you for Tuesday. If you're going to do 2 readings, you know, you're going to be dealing with, you're going to have an emergency clause on it in order to have it effective by the date in August to meet some deadlines. So, but yeah, you definitely would want to have it on for first reading on Tuesday if that's your goal. You can always do a special meeting somewhere in there if you want, and you're going to have committee meetings as well. So no, I'm good. If that's what the will is, we'll get to work on it. It's most of it, the tougher one is already written. The more complex one is already drafted, and it's at the back there. That's the electronic meetings. So the other ones are pretty straightforward based on the direction from the commission and the report, and I'd be ready to go.
Okay. Thank you, Director. And could you just, for the record and for the benefit of the council members, could you just remind us again the date to submit this information to get on the ballot to the Board of Elections?
Off the top of my head, because I'm not at the office, I thought it was August 6th, I think, but I can shore that up for you. It was the first week of August. So it was enough time where you could have your first meeting in August, but you got to give Chuck time to get that thing down to the Board of Elections. So yeah, we want a little more breathing room if we can, but that's fine. It is the first week of August.
Okay, and you are correct. Our first meeting in August is August 4th. And I would prefer as well that the clerk is not running around with his hair on fire for 48 hours trying to make sure that everything is set. I would prefer that to have a few weeks for him and for you to get all that information correct and into the Board of Elections. So in order to accomplish all of this, then if it's council's preference then to move forward and make sure that we're having at least 2 readings on these recommendations, Councilman Glassburn, if you feel that the Intergovernmental Relations Committee would be ready to go for a committee meeting, I'm guessing on the 23rd of June, which would be a normal committee night. We could, after that committee, we could have a special a special council meeting that same night on the 23rd. And then looking at that final Tuesday in June, June 30th, we could also have a special council meeting that night. So in essence, the recommendations would actually have gone through a full 3 readings if council's preference is not to pass them on suspension. So that would be something that that I would like to hear your opinions on right now and see if there is some, a preference one way or the other.
Madam Chair, if I may, it may be a bit of a technicality, but I think doing 3 readings with an emergency is a better path. Since these are being submitted to the voters, it's kind of silly to have them as to have them subject to repeal because they haven't happened yet. So I think it's better to value the 3 readings over preservation of the emergency clause. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Chuck.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to let you know that Councilwoman Heeman has joined the meeting. She's having to join via phone.
Okay, thank you. I will let the record reflect that Councilwoman Heeman is also present at this meeting.
Madam President.
Mm-hmm.
Madam President.
Councilman Schuman.
The June 23rd would actually work out good. We are looking to have a special meeting for 2020-62 anyway. So to have a special meeting, to have our first read on these would be good. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Well, I'm not hearing any major objections then to follow this path. And also just a reminder for council members that in order for these recommendations to be placed on the ballot, we do need a 2/3 vote. We need 5 members to vote in the affirmative for each of these recommendations to then go forward on the ballot. Okay, great. So, I mean, at this point, if there's no other questions for Director Garreau or anyone else regarding the charter review recommendations.
Madam President.
Mm-hmm.
I have one question. Yes. I've heard a couple different things, and I wondered what the cost is to put these on the ballot. Do we have an idea what that would be? I mean, I guess individually and collectively, what would this cost? Anybody got that? Thank you.
I don't, Madam President, if I may. Councilman, I'll have Director Kopfer get back with you. I think it varies. The cost to the city, I think it has much to do with, I mean, if you're throwing an election just to put these on versus other election costs, there's already a presidential election. I'm almost positive that that changes the mark, what it costs to do it. We obviously have to run these in the newspaper. There's some advertising costs, which are not small. Chuck knows how much it costs to run some of these notices. And there's some special requirements for these particular charter amendments on what you're publishing. So it's a little pricey to do that. But the actual election cost, I'll get with Director Kopfer and ask her, because I know that she's looked into that in the past.
Thank you. I don't mean to be a pain. If I could, Madam President.
Councilman Schuman.
I just think it's really important right now. We're dealing with these big cuts. We've been discussing $10,000 and $5,000 over these grants that we've been arguing about. This is real important. I think money is real important right now. We should know what it was going to cost us. I appreciate it if anybody could find that out. Thank you.
Thank you. If both Director Garreau and then our council clerk, if you could possibly email all of council that information, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Okay, great. So moving on to the next topic of discussion for committee of the whole this evening. We do need need to start to think about how we're going to return to our regular in-person meetings. I know that a couple of council members have expressed a desire to broadcast our meetings via cable or other methods in the future. It's something that we've been talking about for a long time. I have directed our clerk to put together several options during our July recess to provide them to council so that we can start considering those in August. I will call a committee of the whole meeting in August to see what information the clerk has been able to provide, and so that we can have a discussion what the will of council is regarding accessibility moving forward. If you guys have any specific platforms or ideas regarding this, if you could get them to our clerk in the next few weeks, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Before a decision is being made for us returning to our regular in-person council meetings, I wanted to give you all a chance to express your concerns and then also what your expectations are in order for us to resume these in-person meetings. Even though City Hall is still closed to the public, the Mayor's Court has started to meet again, and in preparation for our discussion this evening, I did ask our clerk to check Director Glonner about getting these plexiglass shields that I know the mayor had made for Mayor's Court. So I brought one down here. See, looks like this. It's pretty large. And it actually it would sit right in between the council members and then the administration members that are up at the dais. And my recommendation would be that a council member would wear their mask into council chambers once you're sitting down and you're sitting at your area, and then you have the plexiglass on the side of you. That's when you would remove your mask. That would just be my recommendation to you. When Chuck backed into this with Director Glonner, he did say that the employees of our city made these, which is awesome. The construction is really good, and that they do have the material on hand, and that they could be ready for council whenever we determine that we would come back into council chambers. So just to finish up, I want to make sure that when we do return to in-person meetings, that it's safe and that all of the concerns that you have as council members have been addressed. I believe that the absolute earliest we should consider meeting again would be in August after our July break, if not later. Council, obviously, as we just talked about, we're scheduled to be in our recess during July, and we just have a few more weeks in June, so I don't see any reason for us to rush back to City Hall meetings at this point. But I did want to provide an opportunity, like I said, for each of you to give input and for us to discuss tonight with the mayor what safety precautions we would like to see when we do come back to City Hall. I will say that I don't believe that our caucus room should be used when we do come back for any of our meetings. So we would caucus and have our meetings both in the council chambers. And we could even consider something like have our committee meetings through this format. We could continue to meet every other week with our committee meetings with our GoToMeeting platform, and perhaps then just meet twice a month in person for our regular council meetings. If I could hear now from council members as to what your thoughts and ideas are. I don't want to jump too much into the environmental committee's time tonight, so I apologize for dominating the conversation. But like I said, I just wanted to get all those thoughts expressed to you, and I would like to hear from our council member.
Madam President, is it just my end, or is the sound? Is there something wrong with the sound? Are you guys getting a good connection from Nicole, or bad? It's okay if you're shaking your head. No, you're getting a bad connection.
No, that's
Nicole,
what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
that
Nicole,
if anybody else is having trouble hearing her.
And it's slowing down and speeding up, and then you're cutting out. Just to let you know. So I'm just telling you, because I thought maybe it was my connection. I'm here at home, but it is a horrible connection. You're still there, but sometimes.
Mr. Groh, this is Councilwoman Heeman. I've been moving like room to room, which is why I'm off camera, thinking it was like my internet that was causing a problem, or that I couldn't hear it. But no, if everybody else can't hear, then I feel better. Thank you.
Council President, we might want to, because your connection is still going out, we might want to go from the committee of the whole meeting to the committee meeting, because your connection and your picture is starting to really go.
I think it might be a good idea if you want to try calling in on the phone. If you go to the settings and go over and look at the phone, try calling in that way. That might solve the audio issues.
I can't
hear you.
You're killing us.
Nobody has any thoughts. Councilman Kelly. Councilman Kelly.
Yes, thank you. This is kind of a good reason why I wish we could get back into council chambers for meetings. The plexiglass divider that's in between each person would be a great idea. I don't know if you can hear me or not. I think you keep calling my name out, but I'd like to see council get back into council chambers for committee meetings and for council meetings with the proper protection. Thank you.
I saw Councilman Kelly's hand up.
Council President Jones, I think you're still having technical issues. I think we're getting kind of like a repeat. So
I just heard the repeat. I just heard myself say something. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you. I did call on Councilman Kelly multiple times. Councilman, thank you for your comments. Did you have any other comments?
No, Madam President, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Williamson.
Thank you, Madam President. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think that the dividers are a great idea. My only concern, though, is that
it's not really between us. It's between us if we're all leaning forward on the desk, but if we're sitting in our chairs, we're still together on the sides. And until we have a clearer picture as to exactly how City Hall is going to be opening up, I would like to revisit this, even if it is, maybe at our next council meeting, prior to our next council meeting, or on our next committee night.
Yes.
So
I will rejoin the phone. We will.
That's not actually me. That was me from like 5 minutes ago. I mean,
your old you is interrupting me now.
Wow.
Quiet. So, as I said, maybe revisiting how the the building is going to be sanitized and how we're going to move forward then with daily operations. Because I do know that with all of the non-social distancing happening lately in a lot of places, there's a lot of concern for second wave, and I would really hate for it to take out our building or anyone in it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Councilwoman Heeman.
Thank you, Madam President. While I know that we want to have extra precautions and all of those things, I think that we have to remember that our employees are in our building every day. And so we're asking them to come to work every day. I have actually been in the building probably 2 or 3 different times, check my mailbox and do some different things. And obviously they're not on top of each other. There's plexiglass put into the caucus room on the table. And so I think that, we should be able to find a sufficient way to be able to come back into our council chambers. And even if it's at an every other seat perhaps, or, and if you're not comfortable at your particular position, then perhaps move to somewhere else. I don't know that I have another suggestion. I just feel that I feel a little elitist that we're asking our employees to come to work and we won't go in the building. It seems wrong to me. So I'm all for going back in as soon as the majority of folks sort of feel comfortable with whatever the precautions are. And of course, we can always wear masks. I make them by the hundreds if anyone needs one. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Williamson.
Thank you. Councilwoman Heeman, just as a follow-up to what you said, it's not being elitist. I have been working during this entire quarantine. I have been in a public building during this entire quarantine, and I know how things are being handled. And with all due respect to each of my colleagues, I also don't want to be sitting on top of you, especially if I could potentially be carrying, being an asymptomatic carrier. I would not want to jeopardize any of you in that respect. That's all I'm asking is, yes, I know the building needs to open. I just want us to be cautious about how we're going to be bringing the public back in. And I know that the employees are being taken care of, but it's opening back up and letting the public come into the building. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor, do you have an update that you could give council as to when you were planning on fully staffing City Hall?
Yeah, Madam President, thank you. While nothing's written in stone, I had a meeting with Marie today, and we were hoping to get things going back at City Hall potentially after the holiday weekend in July. And as far as your meetings go, what I would guess is going to happen is do your final June meeting, via teleconference, and then hopefully, you're off in July, and then August we get back going to normal. That's my hope, at least. We'll see. Again, it's a very fluid situation. We'll deal with it on a day-to-day basis, but that's what we're shooting for.
Thank you. Councilman Glassburn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If it enables us to meet or as of service to anyone, I'm happy to produce face shields for any council member of the public, administration, staff, anybody who needs one or wants one for our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor?
Yeah, Madam President, I would just say, you know, we've got a little bit of time on this, so if council people can kind of report to Chuck and say, hey, you know, maybe Angela, your example of, you know, hey, they're probably doing things above and beyond at the county. So if you have any suggestions, bring them to Chuck, and then Chuck will bring them to the administration. We'll do whatever you guys want, you know. So whatever you guys need, we're here for you. Just let us know. Maybe communicate with Chuck. Chuck's in the building more so than you guys. So Chuck can communicate with the administration at any point in time, and we'll get anything done. Like you said, if we need stands that go in between you, so then we can fabricate that.
Thank you. Councilwoman Williamson.
Thank you. Yeah, just to refer back to you, Mayor, I know that in some counties they have been putting the plastic in between the jury chairs. Now, they haven't made a decision as to what they're doing downtown, but in order to conduct jury trials, they're anticipating putting almost, I hate to say it, it's almost like a little cubicle. But again, that's another discussion for another day. And as we move closer to opening, I'd like to just hear what your plans are. So, and then we can figure ours out. Thank you.
Councilwoman Heeman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mayor, one of the things that you might want to talk to Director Gallo about would be, so for example, when we had the planning committee meetings and there were, you know, a number of participants, we actually used folding tables down on the floor rather than the dais. And so, you know, if we had 3 or 4 of those with only 2 people at a table, they could be set out in, you know, sort of a pattern on the floor to keep all of us socially distanced and 6 feet apart, mask face shields or dividers added perhaps, and then the public would have to just be, you know, further back in the benches, and see if that's a suggestion perhaps that could work for you and for her when we come back into the building. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, we will take all of your comments and concerns, and we will continue this discussion as the weeks go on. I appreciate you helping me through my technical issue. And if there is nothing else before council, we will conclude our committee of the whole meeting at 7:31 p.m.